Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're zeroing in on one specific document, a piece of proposed legislation working its way through the U.S. Congress.
That's right. The source we're looking at is H.R. 695. Its official title is the Medal of Honor Special Pension Increase Act. And we're specifically looking at the version that passed the House.
Exactly. And our mission today, well, it's pretty straightforward. We want to cut through some of that legislative jargon, really unpack what this bill is trying to do.
Understand why its supporters think it's necessary.
Yes, and figure out the actual concrete changes it proposes for that special monthly pension for Medal of Honor recipients.
And, this isn't just theoretical. Our source confirms the bill's already made some progress. It passed the House of Representatives back on February 26th, 2025.
Okay.
And then literally the next day, February 27th, it got referred over to the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs. So they're looking at it now.
Right, so it's definitely in play. Okay, let's dive into the bill itself then, see what's inside, starting with the reasons they give for proposing it.
Well, the bill kicks off by laying out some findings, kind of setting the stage. It really strongly affirms the status of the Medal of Honor, calls it the highest, the most prestigious military decoration in the U.S.
And it doesn't just say that, it actually describes the standard required, right? I think it quotes the criteria. Something like the deed must be so outstanding that it clearly distinguishes his gallantry beyond the call of duty from lesser forms of bravery. That's quite a high bar.
It really is. It underscores just how extraordinary the actions are that get recognized by this medal. And the findings also talk about the ongoing value these recipients bring.
How so?
Well, serving as inspirations, really, for everyone in uniform, past, present, and future. They embody the best qualities of service members.
The bill also points out something important, that there's already a legal requirement for a special pension.
Yes, exactly. It notes that under current law, the Department of Veterans Affairs, must pay a monthly special pension to everyone who's alive and on the Medal of Honor roll.
So that existing law is the baseline. And then the bill's findings seem to build the argument for making a change to it.
Right. Finding number 6 is pretty direct. It says recipients have earned a substantial and historic increase to such special pension.
Okay, substantial and historic.
Yeah, and it explicitly links this deserved increase back to their conspicuous gallantry, unwavering commitment, and heroic actions above and beyond the call of duty.
So the bill itself is making the case that the current pension just isn't enough recognition, given the actions the medal represents. Which I guess brings us straight to the core of the bill, the section that details the proposed change. What's the actual number changing to?
Well, that's the interesting part. Section 3 is where the main action is. This is the bit that amends the existing law governing the Medal of Honor pension.
And the current law, it just has a fixed dollar amount, right?
Yeah.
Our source mentioned it's currently, what, $4,406.73 a month.
That's the number, yeah. And this bill, it proposes getting rid of that specific dollar figure entirely.
Getting rid of it and replacing it with what? A calculation.
Exactly, a formula.
Yeah.
So instead of this static number that only changes if and when Congress passes another specific update, this bill wants to tie the Medal of Honor pension to other compensation rates already existing within the VA system.
Okay, now this sounds like the key change. It might get a bit technical, but let's break down how this new formula is supposed to work.
Sure. So the bill states the new monthly rate will be equal to, and this is the specific language, the amount of monthly compensation paid to a veteran without dependents at a certain disability level. And then it gets another boost.
Okay.
It points to the rate under a specific part of the VA law, Title 38 U.S. Code, Section 1114 meters. But then it says that rate is increased to the next intermediate rate under subsection P.
Right. So let me see if I've got this. It takes a baseline rate, one used for certain disability payments for a vet with no dependents.
Correct.
Under the Section 1114 meter. And then it bumps it up one step on the VA's scale of compensation rates to whatever the next intermediate rate is in subsection P.
You've got it precisely. Section 1114 is all about compensation for service-connected disabilities. Subsection M is a specific rate in there, usually for quite severe disabilities like loss of use of 2 limbs.
Okay.
And subsection P lists these additional higher rates, intermediate, and total rates for various combinations of severe disabilities. So the bill effectively takes that M rate and pushes it up to the next listed rate in that P schedule.
Wow, okay. That is a significant shift in approach. It means the Medal of Honor pension wouldn't just be a number set by Congress now and then,
Right.
but it would be dynamically linked to a rate within the VA's existing compensation structure. And those rates get adjusted periodically, don't they? Like for cost of living.
They do. It essentially creates a built-in mechanism for adjustment. It links this special recognition, this pension, to a system that's already designed to account for, well, the impacts of service, even though the medal itself isn't disability compensation. It's a different way of calculating its value.
Can we get a ballpark idea of what this might mean in actual dollars? Like, based on current VA figures, roughly what would this new formula translate to?
It's hard to give an exact up-to-the-minute figure without the very latest VA tables right in front of us, but yes, we can estimate. Based on recent VA compensation info, that rate under Section 1114 meter is currently somewhere in the range of, say, $5,000 to $6,000 a month.
Okay, already much higher than the current $1,400.
Much higher. And then the next intermediate rate under subsection P, that's another significant step up from the M rate. So while we can't pin down the exact cents, this formula would definitely represent that substantial increase the bill talks about. We're likely talking several $1,000s more per month.
Okay, wow. That certainly puts the substantial into perspective. Now, that section also introduced another rule, didn't it? Something about increases.
Yes, good catch. It adds a condition. It basically says the VA secretary is not allowed to increase this special pension amount in a given year if that amount was otherwise increased during such year.
Okay, so let's say the VA rates, it's tied to get a cost of living adjustment, a COA. That would trigger an increase for the Medal of Honor pension because the formula is based on those rates.
Right.
But if maybe some other separate law or rule change happened in that same year that also somehow pushed up veteran benefits in a way that might affect this calculation, this rule stops it from getting two separate boosts in one 12-month period.
That's exactly the idea. It ensures there's just one adjustment mechanism applying each year, preventing any kind of unintended double dipping or stacking of increases from different sources. It keeps it clean.
Got it. Okay. And finally, there was one more small change, Section 4. Sounded more administrative.
It is, yes. It's a fairly technical adjustment. It modifies a part of the law dealing with certain limits on VA payments, things like income thresholds or payment caps in specific situations, often related to where a recipient lives or other benefits they might receive.
And the change is just extending a deadline.
Pretty much. It pushes a date related to those payment limitations. A deadline that was set for November 30, 2031 gets pushed back to January 31st, 2033.
So a bit over a year tacked onto a specific limitation period within the VA's payment regulations, not directly changing the pension amount itself, but bundled into this H.R.695 package.
Correct. Just a technical tweak within that broader VA benefits framework.
Okay, so let's try and quickly recap the key pieces here. H.R.695 kicks off by really emphasizing the unique significance of the Medal of Honor.
And argues strongly that recipients have earned a major substantial increase to their special pension.
Then, the big change. It scraps the current fixed dollar amount for that monthly pension.
And replaces it with a new formula. This formula links the pension rate to a specific level of veterans' disability compensation, that Section 1114 meter rate for a veteran without dependents, but then stepped up to the next intermediate rate under subsection P.
And the whole point of this new formula is to make the pension amount more dynamic, so it adjusts automatically alongside those VA compensation rates.
Right, and based on current figures, it means a really significant increase compared to what recipients get now.
Plus, there's that rule added to prevent the pension from getting boosted more than once a year.
And that small administrative change, extending a date for certain payment limits by about 14 months.
And the justification woven throughout the bill is all about providing better recognition and support.
For that conspicuous gallantry, unwavering commitment, and heroic actions above and beyond the call of duty that the medal represents, that's the core rationale.
It really gives you a window, doesn't it, into how Congress tries to translate something like profound recognition into actual policy, into financial support.
Yeah.
Understanding mechanics, like how they chose this specific formula, helps you see how that support takes shape.
And here's maybe the really interesting thought to leave you with. This bill connects the pension for the nation's highest award for valor, something that seems, well, almost immeasurable, right?
Whoa.
It connects it to a formula derived from disability compensation rates. What does it actually mean, practically? For legislation to try and quantify the value of gallantry beyond the call of duty by referencing a system that was originally designed for service-connected loss or injury.
That's a fascinating point. It does raise a big question about how we as a society attempt to put a tangible value through policy and money on actions that are, by their very definition, Extraordinary. Maybe even priceless. Definitely something to think about beyond just the legislative text.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into H.R. 695.